Yo people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another video. Big up your damn selves in the building. As always, there's a lot of breaking news bouncing around, but at the point I'm coming to it, it's not even breaking no more. You already know what time it is. Listen, Reece James is the new captain of Chelsea Football Club and Ben Chilwell is the vice captain. Now, for me, this is incredible. I'm going to get to the pros and I'm obviously going to get to the cons as well to give you balance, but I kind of years ago called this quite a few times that I just felt like Reece James was going to be the captain of Chelsea Football Club. Now, a lot of things have happened along the way to maybe edge it his way or tip it his way, but I'm happy, really happy for him. He's 23 years old. For him to be captain at this age, at this time, is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I've even had a couple of Liverpool fans, I've had Grizz in my comments talking about Trent. Listen, that's a vice. This is a captain of the ship. We're not talking about, we're not talking about the co-pilot here. We're talking about the main man. So, Reece James, do you know what I'm saying? Don't wear his name out. Wonderful moment for our club. And in particular, for a year where, especially this summer, a lot of people have been talking about COBHAM and, whether or not the soul is being ripped out of the club with all of these kind of new transfers being made and whatnot, and a lot of players leaving. Obviously, Loftus-Cheek has gone. Mason Mount has gone. But Trevor Chalobah, Gallagher have been linked with moves away. But you have to have the balance because Reece James is captain. Levi Colwill, new big contract, going to be in the starting 11 most likely until Badiashile, who's back from injury and training, but it will take him time to get back to full match speed to really compete. You look at Lewis Hall, just signed a new 6+1 year contract as well. Ian Matson's involved in the fold, so we haven't decided on Broja. So for me personally, it's actually been a really good also summer for Cobham. You gotta look at it both ways. And for Reece James to be captain, it's just such a statement of intent from not only the club but also Pochettino and Reece James himself for taking on that responsibility and wanting to take this challenge on, because it is a challenge. To be captain now of Chelsea is a different ball game, and to take the reins from Azpilicueta, we all know what an incredible captain Azpilicueta was. He had to grow into the role. He had to grow into that kind of leadership from Gary Cahill and obviously JT before him. But you look at what he won, you look at the professionalism, you look at the consistency, you look at the match fitness and all these things, and that's something that Reece James will be looking to replicate. And it's so ironic and so iconic that it's a man that he was, kind of displacing out of the starting 11 from that very same position when he first came in from Wigan to rotate with, is now who he takes the armband from as well. It's very, very, very therapeutic. It's very, very beautiful. Wonderful irony. But there's a lot to get into. So let's get into the quotes. Reece James has obviously had his say on this. He says, "I'm so happy to take on the role and responsibility. I know I've got big shoes to fill because we've had some huge captains here in the past, but I'm excited. I've been at Chelsea pretty much my whole life. I started here when I was 6, and to come through the academy is tough, but to go on to become captain is a great feeling for me and my family." It's a very proud moment, man. And like I said, this is a guy that's been, he's been a ball boy. The images are circulating on socials. He's come right through the academy, through all the age groups. He started off as a striker, do you know what I'm saying? Then he's moved to right back position. There was a moment in time where if you watch the Nigel James podcast with, the Beautiful Game podcast, they speak about times where we didn't even know if Reece James was going to stay at Chelsea because of interest from Crystal Palace and whether or not he would be sold by Marina for 20 to 25 million pounds, and Frank Lampard kind of had to steady the ship and be like, no, this guy has to stay. He has to be part of this squad going forward after that loan at Wigan. Captain at Wigan as well, you have to remember. So he was captain at Wigan. He showed those incredible leadership traits there. To go to a fully grown-ass men team in Wigan, pie and mash FC, you know what I'm saying? Hard-working league at that time, championship. It's got a little bit more glitz and glamour to it now, but you're going into a dressing room with fully grown men, and by the end of a loan period, you're wearing the armband. That was for me what kind of tipped the scale, where I was like, I believe this guy can be a captain of our club, and I'm just so happy to see that this has actually transpired into reality. So buzzing for Reece James. We're going to go through the rest of the quotes. So we've got Pochettino speaking on it, we've got the directors, but then also we're going to get to things that Reece James has got to do, because now we've given him this trust and we've given him this, this responsibility. There's things that we need to see from Reece James in that coincide with that. So we're going to get into that as well, as buzzing as I am. Pochettino gives the quotes as well. He says, "This is a decision taken by me and the club. We are very pleased that Reece will be captain of this team this season. He leads by example. His attitude, dedication to Chelsea has been clear throughout pre-season. He proudly wore the armband during our summer tour and will take up the challenge of leading our squad with his own approach and ideas." So again, listen, it's a massive responsibility. He's basically leading the fresh new Chelsea team that we're seeing. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for all of us. All right, it's a new era. So a lot of new young players coming through, and someone's got to set the bar, someone's got to set the standard, set the way. And this is the responsibility that we're all discussing here. Obviously, we've got Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart with the quotes as well. They said Reece's connection with Chelsea has been forged over 17 years. He understands the traditions of the club and the responsibilities that come with being captain. Obviously, previous experience, like I said. He knows the standards required to win at this club, both from his time in the academy and with the first team. And it's a very proud moment for Reece and everyone connected with the club. For me personally, like I said, it's a brilliant, brilliant moment. Now, with Reece James and Chilwell, we'll speak about Chilwell as well. Chilwell gets vice captain. Now, I'm actually quite cool with this. There's a lot of kind of up in arms and people are angry, but you have to remember that Chilwell is very heavily involved in kind of the media duties, and Reece James doesn't really speak publicly too much. He's quite a, you know, withdrawn, kind of calm, composed figure. He doesn't really, you don't really see him doing interviews too much and doing all of the kind of, you know, press kind of stuff. He's almost like the silent assassin a little bit. On the pitch, he's very vocal, but you know, he's a bit of a silent assassin. And when you look at Ben Chilwell, he's the one that does a lot of media duties, you know, does a lot of the stuff with the club in terms of, you know, all of the kind of connection with the fans and speaking on pieces of content and stuff. And that for me will translate into the dressing room. I can imagine him, and you can kind of tell by his character, he's very, you know, he's a kind of person and character that will bring people together a little bit and kind of unite the squad. And when you've got situations where, you know, people go off into their little cults, they go off into their little groups at lunchtime and they sit on certain tables, you can tell that a player like Ben Chilwell, and there's been others at the club as well, they're the ones that kind of, you know, grab him by the neck and say, no, you're coming to sit with us, or you're gonna, you know, integration and really getting everybody. And that's something that's important. And you would have seen that, you know, that's probably something, Pochettino would have seen over the preseason that will justify as to why he's making this decision, is that he's probably a great character to have around COBHAM and around the place, and as well as obviously training. And you know, we know that for the big was it Gangan test or something, he absolutely smashed that apparently. But in terms of just, again, as a character, he's a very, like, you know, inclusive kind of, he's a guy that's going to be bringing people together, and he's going to be, you know, he's going to be bridging the gap between, say, the Brazilians and, I don't know, you know, even though you don't speak the language, he's going to be, you know, he's going to be that kind of character. So for me personally, the cons and the questions that everybody's got, whoever would have got captain would have had a question mark, even Thiago Silva, because Thiago Silva's maybe his English isn't as great. He's not going to be playing as much potentially, because obviously we've made a new signing at centre back and we're meant to be bringing his minutes down. So there's the kind of contrast of a captain with experience, world-class level. Also, are you going to be on the pitch as often? But that applies to Reece James and Chilwell. 25 games missed last season for Reece James due to injury, 22 games the year before in 21-22. Chilwell, again, 15 games missed last season due to a couple of injuries, and a massive injury, obviously, that kind of started all this, was the catalyst, was 43 games the season before he missed, where he really had a huge injury. And that's the season, obviously, where, you know, we were like, wow, what, this is a massive moment in his career. Thankfully, he's recovered from it, and he's shown that he can come back from that. So they've missed a lot of games is the point. And captains, vice captains, you don't ideally want them missing a lot of games. So that's something that those two have got to kind of prove, and they've got to improve on. It's going to take a joint effort from them, the medical team, everybody managing the minutes, etc. But as captain and vice captain, you don't want to see those numbers. Again, you don't want to see those two guys missing for large parts of the season, large chunks of the season. Of course, we're going to have a vice, but ideally you want one of your captains on the pitch. So that's one of their, if not their biggest hurdle, each of them to overcome. But also they've got another hurdle. It's not just the games. It's not just the injuries. The other hurdle is actually keeping your spot in the team. If you look at the positions they play, and who's vying for those spots, they've probably got the stiffest competition out of everybody in this team. At least they're right up there. You look at Chilwell, listen, Cucurella, very expensive player. He's going to be vying for his position. He's going to be pushing him, and he plays the role in a different way. So tactically, sometimes Cucurella may make sense, and it's depending on who gets that chemistry with Mudryk, or whoever the left winger is, who, you know, does the job that is needed and required best. And they play the position in complete polar opposite ways. Cucurella is an inverter. You know, he's probably best tucked in defensively. That's the side of the game that he's got to master, like an Azpilicueta, because going forward isn't his skill set. Chilwell is a high and wide, you know, overlapper, underlapper, you know, goal getter. So either of them, if they want to go and give us the great crossing ability that Reece James and Gusto will give, then, you know, they could get their place that way. So there's a lot of competition for Chilwell's place. And equally on the other side, I've even said it myself, I'm one of Reece James's, biggest fans, supporters. I've wanted him to be captain from the moment that he's, stepped foot, and we were looking for a successor for Azpilicueta. But Gusto is absolutely incredible in pre-season. He's defending wonderfully well, 1v1 against Matoma. He hasn't put a foot wrong. And he's just so good. He's so good. And it's like we've got great players now competing for these two fullback positions. And that's before we even get to, potentially in the future, Ian Maatson or Lewis Hall coming back on loan from Crystal Palace. So that left back is even more competitive. So that's the point, is that these guys, they're starting 11 places depending on if they're fit. And obviously fitness breeds consistency. Consistency, you need to have it if you're going to keep these two positions. Because if you don't, if you keep picking up niggling injuries and the two guys that come in for you are incredible form, then we can't just throw you back in just because you're captain or vice captain. In my opinion, it's got to be based on who deserves the position. So listen, Reece James is quite positionally versatile. We've seen that in the back three, potentially, who knows, one day in midfield. But personally right now, I'm not really vouching for it. I want Caicedo. So he might have a little bit of room to wiggle. But regardless, there's competition for places and these guys are going to have to perform. So that is the big challenge for both of them, is to stay fit, not miss these amount of games, and also keep their place, because the competition is crazy. But yeah, listen, for me personally, guys, I'm very happy with that. Silva, if you want to look at it this way, because I know Silva and potentially Enzo, people were talking about, but I think probably come to the club he's been in the club for not too long. It's probably not a surprise that he's not one of the captain or vice captain. Let's be honest. But maybe in the future, maybe in the future he'll be one of the leaders in the team. But you take a look at, Thiago Silva, he's going to lead regardless. He doesn't need the armband. He doesn't need any title. He's grown. He's grown. He got kids grown, wifey grown. This guy don't need no armband. He's going to lead regardless. And there's no chopping and changing here. He's probably going to be in his last season. So as much as I would have been absolutely buzzing for Silva to get it, I can understand the logic as to why he didn't get it as well. He doesn't really need it, and he's not going to be here probably in a year's time. So that's the captaincy situation. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Massive announcement. We've got the sponsor, we've got captains, we've got shirt numbers. We might even have players coming in. Damn, we almost might be ready. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Smash up the likes and subscribe. As always, I will see you guys very soon. In a bit, people. Peace.